Elden Ring is a good game. It is an incredible game. It did to the gaming industry what Arcane on Netflix did to the animation industry. Basically, when it dropped, it set a bar. And not just the usual, oh, this time a dozen game is like a masterpiece, oh my god. No, it shaped the industry in ways we've yet to be seen. So when Arcane on Netflix dropped, animation studios and publishers took note. People were looking at what it did and didn't work, as per usual, but in some places there was a quiet little part of them that just all went, oh shit, we have to make stuff as good as this now. The old standards just aren't gonna cut it anymore. And that brings us to Elden Ring. We are going to see and feel the impact of this fucking great game for years to come. As of writing, I'm still working on my way through defeating the very final boss, but as of recording, I did beat that boss, suck my dick past Gavin, but I'm fairly confident saying that this game is going up there with some of my favorites of all time, up there with like Disco Elysium, Half-Life 2, Undertale, etc. And naturally, to figure out why this game is so good, we need to start off with the most logical jumping off point and talk about Left 4 Dead. What the fuck? I believe that Elden Ring and Left 4 Dead are amazing games for similar reasons. That being that both games speak for themselves when it comes to every little detail in its design. Now, for context, I picked up the game Back 4 Blood around Christmas last year, and if you don't know, Back 4 Blood was supposed to be the spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead. They're both very similar games where you basically just run from point A to point B, fight zombies along the way, maybe knock out a few objectives, depending on what level you're on. However, even though they came out swinging that this game was from the original developers of Left 4 Dead, and that the game's literal title is Back 4 Blood, as if you're returning back to this kind of game, it doesn't hit the same itch as Left 4 Dead, despite having an entire decade of time between both games. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but one major one for me that's just a quick summary of all the little minute flaws is just the sheer confidence and presentation of both games. This is true in level design, the movement, the AI, the enemy design, but I'm going to just focus on one aspect of both games: the character trailers. Both Left 4 Dead and Back 4 Blood have animated trailers that basically introduce you to the world, the characters, the infected, give you a general feel of what you're about to jump into, and Left 4 Dead does this brilliantly. It's pretty simple, at least on the surface. It's very easy to screw up though. You just get a brief glimpse of these characters and what they're going through, and in that time you can easily identify each of their roles and personality. Francis is kind of an asshole and acts pretty distant emotionally, but he's also pretty funny, and you can kind of tell that he cares about the team, and whether that's just because he knows he'll die without them, or if he genuinely forms a bond with them, you kind of go on that little teeter-totter. Lewis is pretty naive, despite everything going on, and he's very much the group's optimist, for better or for worse. Zoe isn't as naive as Lewis. You can tell she's been through some pretty heavy shit, but she's still on the younger side compared to the group and has some stuff to learn. And Bill takes on the leader role. He's gruff, but he keeps everyone in line while also being the glue that keeps this group from drifting apart. Just in 5 minutes, you can really get a feel for these characters as well as what they're up against, and it makes you excited to play it. And this philosophy of letting the game just speak for itself, letting it just show itself off and invest you naturally, is present everywhere else in this game. And Back 4 Blood does not succeed at this. To compare, here are scenes from the Back 4 Blood character trailer.
And that's Mom. At least that's what we call her because she's tough, doesn't take shit from anybody, and always knows exactly what to say. My name is Holly. Just your run-of-the-mill college kid with a baseball bat. But I can also be a real softie on the inside, you know?
Now hold on. I'm sure you can get what I'm saying here, but which one is more likely to invest you? Actually seeing characters show their personality organically and see how they react to different situations, or just outright being told what these characters are? Back 4 Blood isn't necessarily a bad game, it's just not good enough. That sounds really mean to say. It's not as good as the game it sought out to compete with, even though it had 10 years to learn from its mistakes and to adapt its strengths into a modern context. It is in that murky, blurry gray area between incredibly good and horrifically bad, and it's in that zone where 5 years from now I'm gonna forget it existed until somebody else brings it up for me. And this sort of attitude reflects in the game's designs, as I've said. And the intro only solidifies what you're getting into. I would be much more invested in these characters if I actually got to learn about them in a fun way. In different situations, I'd actually be enjoying the gameplay more if it was varied enough and less... How do I even describe it? It's not like, it doesn't control badly, but like, kind of feels like the card system was put in there just so that they had something that they could claim as unique, but it doesn't really invest me at all as a player. I don't feel like my cards are making a huge difference, even though they probably do. I just don't feel that difference. It's in the game, they balanced the whole game around it, so like it's not like they can just pull it out and be like, here's the classic mode, actually. Like, I'm sure a lot of people spent a ton of time working on it, but in the end it didn't add up in the way it should have. What results is just a really mediocre kind of like shooter that'll probably got me going like, haha, like for about a few hours. Am I gonna come back to it after I beat it all? No. The quickest way to suck the enjoyment of learning about a game is if you just read off the personalities of the main cast and stuff like that. If you're going to do that, I may as well just read the Wikipedia page. At least there my eyes can read quicker than the intro narration can speak. So, Left 4 Dead 2 and Left 4 Dead speaks for itself. Back 4 Blood does not speak for itself. One has confidence in itself to succeed with a combination of that presentation, gameplay, and mechanics, and one lacks that confidence, or maybe instead it has too much of it without the substance to back it up. And I'm sure if you read the title of this video, you can see where this is going. Elden Ring absolutely speaks for itself, even more than Left 4 Dead. It is such a breath of fresh air to play an open world RPG that doesn't just barrage me with boring map markers, an overload of uneventful quests, and basically just become me paying $60 for jingling keys and flashing lights. If you know me, you probably know that I've made my distaste for Ubisoft games pretty clear, especially the modern day ones. I do not think that being plopped into a world with a metric ass ton of map markers and bandit camps is going to hold my attention for very long, no matter how try-hard quirky you try and make the characters. I can't get invested if your world feels like a checklist instead of an actual living, breathing world. Have you ever noticed when playing modern open world games just how often you aren't looking at the world? Just think about how often, like, if you're playing a modern, like, Far Cry 6 or Far Cry 5, how often you're spending that time looking at a marker or a mini-map, rather than just absorbing the landscapes that the developers no doubt poured thousands of hours into making, only for it to be mostly ignored because your eyes are being drawn somewhere else by the UI. Now, Ubisoft games and Bethesda games, they aren't necessarily bad, just like Back 4 Blood isn't bad, but like, these aspects of the game draw the best parts of it away in return for just streamlining everything to the point where very few people are going to love or hate these things. It falls in the middle where it's not going to be an extremely memorable experience. Elden Ring completely forgoes this, and there are 0 map markers besides either checkpoints you can teleport to or ones you place down yourself. There are no quest or objective markers. There are like 2 that I ever came across, and I had to do really niche things to get them to appear, and they were there to guide me if I wanted to go down an even nicher quest line that I ended up not doing. But yeah, you get my point. There's no quest or objective markers, no journals, nothing. The closest that you get to it is some of the checkpoints vaguely point in the direction of the main content, and even that is woven directly into the world instead of just being an arrow or an objective marker on your UI. Removing mechanics that are typically present in other games might sound like a step back, but it's such a freeing breath of fresh air. Because when there isn't a mini-map, and when there isn't a quest log, suddenly I'm paying that much attention to the world around me. I'm not just staring at the map and waiting until I get close enough to interact with whatever I'm after. I am actively keeping an eye out for enemies, landmarks, and other checkpoints in case my ass gets clobbered, which it will. In Elden Ring, you aren't exploring because the funny haha man quest told you to do it and now there's a marker somewhere. You are exploring purely because you saw something that looked cool and you went to it. Or you saw something that might be a landmark on the map and you went to it. And now you're discovering God knows what. It's a new hidden area that might have multiple bosses stuck inside of it. Or new dungeons and treasures and weapons and armor. There is so much in this game. Not enough games manage to pull off this sense of discovery as good as this game does. Not just exploration, but genuine discovery. The feeling that you yourself stumbled onto this little area purely because you had a sharp enough eye to notice it. I still remember when I decided to poke around the area near the start of the game, Limgrave, and then I found a hidden cave in between like these cliffs. And I went inside of it and I went deep underground where there was just a bunch of waterfalls and crumbling statues and evidence of the society that burrowed down there once, doing God knows what. And it all capped off with a boss fight against a golem that whooped my ass a few times before I brought it down with the help of me and my monkey legion. Demi-human spirit ashes gang, rise up, return to monkey. Or when I went and found a way to climb this scary-ass tower in a scary-ass location, only to find out that when I got to the top, that I had to then descend inside of it, which involved making some scary jumps on crumbling platforms that broke underneath me and just really perilous just moments, and it really uses that scale to its advantage. And then when I got to the bottom, there was a boss fight that took me quite a while to get through. I had to like go back and get stronger and find stuff, but eventually I came back, beat it, and then it unlocked the top of the tower. And then when I got to the top of the tower, there was a grotesque eldritch like hand that was dead next to a rune, like a great rune that I unlocked, and now my max health can get increased significantly if I use rune arcs. Or my favorite one. I decided to go off the beaten path in a castle that's relatively near the start of the game, and I went underground only to find the face of what looks like a dead Lovecraftian god melded into the cave walls. What the fuck? The implications of this being here are absolutely just terrifying. Are there more of these somewhere? Are they still alive? What the hell happened to... I'm scared just thinking about it. Oh my god. Those are just a few examples though. There is so much in this game that I probably missed. I barely explored Caelid. That place is scary as hell, but I'll feel a lot more confident about doing that in my New Game Plus run. And as I said before, you know, like I climbed that whole tower up, down, and up again, and I got rewarded mechanically. But sometimes the reward isn't even mechanical. But before this, I don't even think I ever went through hell and back to fighting a boss or exploring an area only for the reward to be like just a beautiful view of the world or a peek into the lore. And I thought this was totally worth it. Because it is. The game is so rightfully confident in itself that it just unleashes you into this world with very little restraint. It isn't afraid to let you get your ass kicked, because then it knows it's teaching you something. It is telling you that you have something to look forward to later when you explore around, become more powerful, and return later with new skills, armor, and weapons that will all bury this boss. That sort of gameplay loop is so rewarding and makes every second of your exploration feel worthwhile, even when the reward is something otherwise trivial in other games. It is the liberating experience that sets this game apart from so many other AAA open world games. Not that they're bad games, but they just lack the confidence to stay memorable or have moments that really just stick with you and will forever change how you think about these games and how you consume media. Breath of the Wild changed how people looked at open world games for a while, and Elden Ring is doing that, but even harder. Now, the game isn't perfect. My only real complaint is that, towards the end, I think FromSoft got a little too trigger happy with the bosses that can one-shot you, no matter your health or armor or stats. Or they can lock you into a combo that might as well be a one-shot because you can't escape it the moment you're trapped and it drains your health. I feel like that's to encourage summoning other players more, because then you can split the aggro between you, and instead of the entire combo being blasted on you, it's like the NPC is trying to split it between two people, which gives you more room to dodge and attack and stuff like that. But I feel like that incentive is already there enough to where they didn't really need to do that. Malenia is a fine boss, probably one of my favorite in any From Software game. I don't think she personally needs changes, despite being the hardest boss in the game, no doubt. Though I did kill her because of a glitch where what happened was me and my summons were just wailing on her, and we staggered her right at the end of her first phase. And I think somebody triggered her second phase just as I was doing the front stab, and when you parry someone and then stab them, it technically freezes their health bar. And what happened was her health bar was frozen when the second phase started, meaning that she didn't replenish her health for the second phase. She instantly died. That was weird, but it was pretty funny and pretty memorable. And you know what? I can't say I didn't struggle with that boss before, so it was pretty satisfying. And I'm gonna fight her again in New Game Plus, so she'll probably beat my ass again. But otherwise, other than her, nobody likes fighting a boss only to watch 80% of their health explode in one shot because they failed to dodge just a single time. But that one flaw in this entire game does not detract from it just being a masterpiece. And like I said at the start, this game is going to be a game changer, and we might see some Elden Ring knockoffs coming out for a good long while. And if more games see this and adapt the right lessons from it into their open world games going forward, then good. Because I think people are tired of the usual formula and the UI overload and the overly traditional quest design of seeing blank amount of things you need to do, go do them, turn in quest, get reward, done. Here's your number reward, the number goes bigger, there's the dopamine rush, whoa. Again, not that it's bad, it's just something I'm personally so burned out on after just playing so many games like that for so many years. Horizon Zero Dawn, I hear it's amazing, I can't get through it because that's all that game is. It is I've played this game so many other times before Horizon Zero Dawn came out. There was Elder Scrolls, Assassin's Creed, just so many other games that follow this traditional formula, and when people break out of that formula and make something amazing, it ends up resulting in this. And I think more people should try it. Don't constrain yourself with what has been proven to succeed. Take what succeeds and evolve it. And also just have confidence in what you're making. The worlds you're crafting, the stories you're telling, the characters you're creating, instead of trying so hard to just knock off these checklists. It's wonderful when games just break out of that traditional mold. Some of the most memorable games of the past decade were ones that didn't stick within their traditions. They broke out of it. Disco Elysium? I've never played a game like that before, but I loved it. Undertale. You can probably point out a few things that are similar to other games of the time, but when that came out, people were all over that because it was so unique and memorable and, again, confident. And Elden Ring, it's the same thing. And it's going right up there with Disco Elysium and Undertale and Half-Life 2. Half-Life, I don't even need to say, Half-Life 1 changed how first-person shooters were developed forever. We wouldn't have half the games, pardon the pun, we wouldn't have half the games that we have today without that game. Portal wouldn't exist. Counter-Strike wouldn't exist. There's just so much to talk about in the gaming industry, but I'm gonna just bring myself back to focus down on Elden Ring and show off your interesting concepts, worlds, characters, and mechanics. You know, be confident about them rather than having otherwise good games be drowned out by the mind-numbing white noise that studios and publishers have become accustomed to, because they're afraid that if they don't knock off these checklists, and players are just going to immediately get bored of their world and leave to go somewhere else. Hopefully, Elden Ring's success proves that people want games like this. And not just, oh, we're going to make something with the exact mechanics, but just in a different world and characters and whatnot. No. Take risks like this game does. Please. More of this, please. Anyways, I need to stop rambling. I had a script with this, and I'm pretty sure half of this video is off the script. So that's all for now. This isn't the usual stuff I make, so if you hear from elsewhere thinking, oh, maybe he makes videos like this all the time, sorry. But, you know, who knows, maybe I'll sprinkle this in between the regular content you can expect. But yeah, I want to thank my patrons for enabling me to ramble like a madman while also doing the usual voice acting stuff. And if you want to join them, the link to the Patreon is in the description below. You get perks like ad-free content, sometimes early releases of stuff. But yeah, I want to give a special thanks to the following patrons on the Diplomat and higher tier: Lengirl, Katie243, Sammy CMR, Alicia, Mystic Chan, Clarabelle Pagan, Ailswith, Adblue S, MG, Deborah Bossard, Silverhawk EG, Christopher Stevens, Christy Hall, Wendy Wayne, Miss Effie, Patrice Gilton, Helios Flame, Kay, Inspector Lemon, Mia Khan, GD, Wannabe Bunny Girl, Kurt Wilkes, Safadil, Ravioli Senpai, Outer, Freaky Flatwoods, Great Bright Skills, Zara, Roses in Blue, Mermaid Aurora, and Manda. Alright, that's all for now. I'm going to force myself away from the microphone before I go on another unhinged rant. But yeah, thank you for making it to the end. Have a good one, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.